for a while before he retired. So gained some of those amazing ZVZ skills. And hopefully we don't have a ridiculously long break again in between games, because that would be silly. Not like in Pro League where their breaks are actually longer than the games when it's ZVZ. Ugh. Yes! Going right into game number 2. Fantastic. We are on Neo Jade 2.0. And spawning. Actually, I'm just going to quickly switch this so we don't have to have the crazy aspect ratio. Shoom. Done. Much nicer. So presumably the colors will be the same. Killer will be this red Zerg here at the bottom right, and Larva will be the yellow Zerg at the top right. I believe we are on Neo Jade. Actually, I think I said that earlier. Completely forgot. And advantage Killer right now, but being a best of 7 and a ZVZ, things can definitely go either way. Interestingly, the Overlords are actually going towards each other, even though it's a rotationally symmetric map. So it looks like Larva is actually the one doing the non-standard scout here. Normally you send your Overlord towards the closer natural, which is what Killer's doing, but Larva's deciding to go the other way here. Of course, either way works. Alright. So, looks like no 9 pooling action. And no overpooling action either. Oh, both going for 12 drones. Let's see if they make a hatchery or a pool after that. Looks like it's going to be a 12 pool from Larva. And 12 pool from Killer. Alright, so mirror builds this time, so that's good. No build order difference, and also no scouting difference either. Both players are going to scout each other first. So really just going to be a pure skill here, pure decision-making game. It's going to be good stuff. And, well, let's basically see if Larva can actually match Killer's skills here. Last game he did have a slight... Wait, last game he was... Yeah, last game he overpooled against the 12 pool, so he was at a slight disadvantage. And wasn't able to overcome that. This time both players going for exactly identical builds so far, both getting the expansion. And this is actually going to be interesting. So I was just thinking in terms of their spawning locations, who has the advantage, and I think that Larva actually has a slight advantage defensively. Because if you think about it, once you go later on into the game where the mutas are out and you've got mutas and lings all running all over the map, for Killer's base, Killer, the red Zerg once again, just to help myself remember as well as keep it clear for you guys. So he's kind of vulnerable in 2 locations. So Larva can actually send his mutas into Killer's main and send his lings to the natural, and they're kind of split up, right? So Killer would have to be defending 2 places at once. Whereas if Killer tried to do the same trick to Larva, it's a little bit more difficult because in order to get to the main, the mutas would have to fly around the natural. And whoa. So that means that it's a little bit easier for Larva to defend that kind of multi-pronged attack, I think. But other than that, should be nothing too significant here. Anyway, it looks like some lings are poking around here, and a handful of lings of Larva are actually going to run around here, try to get into the main, weren't quite able to, so just going to poke around the natural and go home. Meanwhile, oh, looks like they're going to get trapped though. Oh, looks like, oh wait, he should have ran those last 2. Oh man, I think he just gave up on them, seeing that half of them were trapped there. So losing those 4 lings, I don't think, did Killer even lose a single ling there? I'm not sure. Killer is slightly behind on the lair tech though, so kind of the reverse of last game here. So let's see if Larva can capitalize on that. I mean, he's already lost a couple of extra lings there, and while that normally, you normally might think, oh, losing a couple of lings isn't a big deal. Of course, with how tight ZVZ is, that's actually quite a big deal, especially since they went from mirror builds here. You know, every single unit, is pretty crucial, and these two Lings might actually go down as well since they don't have speed. And oh man, two Lings even actually somehow snuck their way around here into the natural. Almost got a drone, didn't quite get it, but they might just at least be able to get these couple of Lings here. They are going to block here. It does get one of the Lings. I think he's going to trap the other one as well since Ling speed was not finished in time. Just now has finished for Larva. That was of course why Killer's lair was slightly slower, because he opted to go for the speed first, whereas Larva went for the lair first. Normally it doesn't make a huge difference when everything else is pretty much the same. But in this case it cost Larva a couple of extra Zerglings. And now it looks like the Overlords are going to start moving away from each other's bases, of course, just to make sure they don't get killed immediately by Mutalisks when they pop, since the Spires are getting pretty close to completion. Both ways with a good number of Lings. Larva actually once again moving out with a lot of speedlings here. Looks like he wants to make something happen before the Mutas pop here. Let's see how good... Oh, looks like... No, he's just going to back up here. Perhaps he was thinking of trying to hit at some kind of timing where, you know, Killer was saving up Larva for his Mutalisks or something like that, and had a slightly lower Ling count. Because if you notice, you know, Larva hasn't really saved up any of his Larva. But wasn't really able to hit a timing here. He's still trying to poke in, but he's got to be very, very careful. Doesn't really want to engage uphill. Even though, you know, in melee combat, there's none of this, you know, high ground mischance. It still does help to have the high ground here in these engagements. But it looks like Larva is going to get a slightly better arc, but unfortunately doesn't have as many Zerglings as his opponent. So even though I think he got a slightly better engagement there, he is forced to run away here, running towards the left side of the map, kind of pulling the Lings away from his base as well as from Killer's base. And it looks like the first Mutalisks are out. A couple of Scourge moving out to just try and maybe snipe a Mutalisk for free here while the Muta count is low, but I don't think they're really going to be able to do too much. They might actually try and sneak around here and catch a Muta. Oh, look at this. They're actually trying to intercept any Muta that go with the group. So if you look at the positioning on the minimap, the Scourge position themselves directly in between Killer's base and where his Mutalisks were killing the Overlord. And oh, they grab a Muta for free right as it pops. Lucky timing there for Larva, and it's those kinds of moves that he needs to take this game. Because Killer so far seems to be outplaying him here. So nice move there. Also, my earlier comments on the positioning was basically Killer might have been kind of grouping new Mutalisks into the same control group as his main Muta force, and would have kind of just brought them over to that middle area of the map, in which case the Scourge could have intercepted. But either way, he gets the Muta, and nice little control there from Larva. Manages not to take too many Scourge hits, I don't think. He did lose a drone there at the natural, though. Killer, meanwhile, just now taking his natural gas. Larva's still not taking his natural gas. That natural gas could be quite crucial here, obviously. The Mutas and Scourge all very, very gas heavy. So Zergs generally will just quickly saturate both of those gases first without even having very many drones on minerals. Of course, if you have excess gas, you can always just make a few extra Scourge and they'll take care of that very easily. Scourge being just 25 minerals and 75 gas. And we see the slightly later second gas for Larva. Not too much though. And Larva actually added a lot of Scourge himself as well. Let's actually count the drones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it looks to me like Killer might have a couple more drones than Larva. I'm not 100% sure, but just a general impression there is that Killer actually has a higher drone count. And just 1 or 2 drones in such an overall low drone count game is a very, very big deal. Looking at the minimap though, Larva's actually got a lot of units kind of floating around outside his natural in a line there just for spotting. Presumably those are just actually they're moving kind of slowly. They look like Overlords here. Oh, actually, they're probably the ones he's using to group his Mutas, so he's kind of moving them towards the top left there, grouping them in the Mutas to do the stacking trick, and then they kind of float back over, yeah. Okay, so they're not, I don't think they're necessarily deliberately there to kind of spot for anything, but they do kind of provide some vision there in case some kind of sneaky counterattack going on from Killer. In the meantime, though, there is a big attack here preparing to go into Larva's natural, and this could be very, very dangerous. It looks like Killer's just going to go for it here. He's going for the kill. How's the micro going to be? He's got a lot more Lings on the ground here, and it looks like he had more Scourge in the air as well or something. Larva's Mutas are just flying around, trying to avoid the Scourge hits. But, oh my god, Killer just seems to have an overwhelming force right now. Manages to almost grab a Muta there as it pops. A couple of idle Scourge there. Oh, Killer's just dancing his Mutas. He's not even shooting, and GG from Larva. Killer deliberately causing his Mutas not to attack. He had such a big advantage there that he just did a ceremony there in the last attack and forced a GG out of Larva anyway. And Killer just taking these first 2 games fairly easily, it looks like. I don't think anyone's particularly surprised. Of course, he was a big favorite going in here, but man, Larva looking a bit shaken up there. Of course, a little fun fact from Arvik Hero actually is that historically, all the SSL finals have been either 4-0 or 4-1s, so generally pretty one-sided. We're hoping to break that trend today, but it's not looking good for Larva here. Man, he looks pretty upset about that. Now, I didn't realize he was that far behind, actually. I guess he took more scourge hits in that first engagement than I thought or something. But, you know, I mean, he lost a few lings early on that he didn't need to. He made a few more a few ling attacks that didn't quite work out. But then, you know, he got that free muta kill, and I thought the micro in the first engagement was decent, but I guess not. Alright, well, let's see what Larva can do here. It's still best of 7. He's still in it, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. Killer, in fact, the only one of the 4 players today that actually played a mirror in this tournament so far. He played a series against Soma. That was actually quite interesting because I actually don't remember exactly what happened, but I think after game 1 he was like tilted about something. So he actually, I think maybe the game like dropped a few times and he had to restart or something, but basically he like 5-pooled against Soma on Electric Circuit and like didn't seem to just kind of half-ass it and didn't do it properly and got like half his link stock and then just like GG'd out almost immediately. And then he managed to win the 3rd game there, but you know, Larva's had a bit of a rocky road here to the finals.